You learned it when you were like 8 years old. Someone sat you down. Explained it. You felt a little weird about it. And then you moved on. But here is the thing nobody ever told you. For most of human existence, for hundreds of thousands of years, nobody on Earth knew. Not a single person. The connection between sex and pregnancy? Completely invisible. Total mystery. Zero clues. And the way humans finally figured it out is one of the wildest detective stories in history. Buckle up. First, let us understand why it took so long. Because honestly, you might think, how hard could it be? You have sex. 9 months later, baby appears. 2 + 2 = 4, right? Wrong. Not even close. Think about it from where your ancestor is standing. Sex is happening constantly. Every day. Multiple times. With multiple people in many ancient cultures. It is just a thing people do, like eating or sleeping. Nobody is hiding it. Nobody is tracking it. But pregnancy? Pregnancy happens rarely. Months later. With zero visible moment of connection. The gap between cause and effect is 9 months long. 9 months. For a brain that learned cause and effect by watching a rock hit another rock, 9 months is an incomprehensible delay. Your brain is not built for that. Nothing in nature prepared the human brain to connect those two dots. So what did ancient people think was causing pregnancy? Oh, the answers. One of the most widespread ancient beliefs, found across multiple continents, was food. Specific foods entering a woman's body and creating life inside her. The Trobriand Islanders of Papua New Guinea, studied by anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski in the early 1900s, had zero belief in physiological paternity. Zero. None. They believed spirit ancestors sent spirit children into a woman's body activated by food, or by the woman's spirit while she slept. When Malinowski asked them directly, what does the man contribute to the child, the Trobrianders looked slightly confused. The man, they said, opens the way. But he has nothing to do with the child. They were not stupid. They were making the most logical conclusion available with the data they had. Sex was everywhere. Babies were not everywhere. The connection was not visible. Wind was another popular theory. Breath. Spirit. In ancient Egypt, gods breathed life into existence. The idea that a woman could become pregnant by sacred wind from a sacred direction was not considered strange. It was theology. In ancient Rome, and this is the one that will make you stop and stare, Mares were believed to become pregnant by turning their hindquarters to the west wind. This was reported seriously. As natural fact. By Virgil. By Pliny the Elder. Brilliant men. Intellectuals of their civilization. They genuinely believed wind could cause pregnancy. Then there was the moon. Dozens of ancient cultures believed the moon directly controlled female fertility, which honestly is not that crazy. The menstrual cycle and the lunar cycle are roughly the same length. Going from there to the moon causes pregnancy is not a leap. It is actually pretty logical given what was known. So when did humans actually figure it out? The answer is going to surprise you. Animals. Specifically, domestication. For most of human history, humans were hunters and gatherers watching animals move through the wild. Wild animal mating is hard to track. You see the animal. Then months later the animal has a baby. The dots are still not connecting. But then, starting around 10 to 12,000 years ago, something changed. Humans started keeping animals. Sheep. Goats. Cattle. Pigs. And when you keep animals in an enclosure, you see everything. You see exactly which male was with which female. You see exactly when they mated. And you see exactly which females became pregnant afterward. For the first time in human history, the cause and effect chain became visible. Controllable. Repeatable. You could separate the male. The female would not become pregnant. You could reintroduce the male. She would. You could do this again and again and again. The evidence was undeniable, repeatable, scientific. In every meaningful sense of the word. Researchers including anthropologist David Schneider argue that recognition of paternity in humans almost certainly followed domestication, not preceded it. Humans figured out animal reproduction first. Then at some point someone made the connection to themselves. That moment, someone lying awake in the dark watching their sheep and suddenly thinking, wait, is one of the most significant cognitive leaps in human history. And we have absolutely no record of when it happened. Or who thought it first. But here is where it gets really wild. Even after some cultures figured it out, the knowledge did not spread. Not quickly. Not evenly. Not consistently. Because knowing something intellectually and believing it emotionally are two completely different things. Paternity, the certainty of fatherhood, became one of the most destabilizing ideas in human history. Because if sex causes children, then the question of which man fathered which child suddenly becomes urgent. Answerable. Dangerous. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer HRDY has argued that the recognition of paternity restructured human society more dramatically than almost any other single idea. Property. Inheritance. Marriage as a formal institution. The control of female sexuality. The concept of legitimacy. All of it, every single one, flows from the moment humans understood that sex causes children and therefore specific men are responsible for specific children. Before that knowledge, fatherhood as we understand it did not exist. Children belonged to mothers, to communities, to clans. Multiple men in a group might all be considered partial fathers. There are still cultures today that practice partible paternity, the belief that a child can have multiple biological fathers, each of whom contributed something. This was not confusion. This was a fully coherent understanding of reproduction that existed before physiological paternity was established. And honestly, in some ways it made for a more cooperative community. If every man might be the father of every child, every man has a reason to protect every child. The village raises the child because the village might have made the child. Now here is the number that will genuinely stop you. The oldest written evidence we have of humans understanding physiological paternity comes from ancient Mesopotamia. Around 4,000 years ago. Cuneiform tablets discussing inheritance. Legal paternity. The rights of fathers over children. 4,000 years ago. Modern humans have existed for at least 300,000 years. That means, if the timeline is even roughly right, that for approximately 296,000 years, human beings walked the earth, had children, raised families, built communities, created art and language and ritual and meaning. Without knowing how any of it started. Think about that tonight. You know something so basic you learned it as a child. Something your ancestors spent nearly 300 millennia completely, totally, absolutely in the dark about. They looked at babies and saw miracles. They looked at the moon and thought it was responsible. They looked at food and breath and wind and water in sacred rivers. They were not wrong to look for something extraordinary. They just had no idea how extraordinary the actual answer was. And neither really do you.